We'll be moving on with our second speaker of today, which is Terry Nick Bergsma. So welcome, Terry. Again, for the audience, if you do have direct questions to the speaker, please use the Q&A and I will refer some of these questions to the speaker. Now, our second speaker, Terry Nick, is a data scientist. So we're moving a little bit of topics at ASR, and he will be talking more about starting your career in tech. A lot of you have had questions about that, so I'm sure you're dying for his insights. So thank you, Terry. Welcome, and take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Lara. It's very nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me for this summit to talk you a little bit about how to start your career in tech. My name is Terry Nick. I live in Utrecht. It's a city in the center of the Netherlands. Quite beautiful city. I'm 20 years old, and I graduated 3 years ago for the Masters Artificial Intelligence here at the University of Utrecht. And my search for my first job was a beautiful search. It was a beautiful journey because I figured out that if you focus mainly on two things, the search for your first job or for any job is pretty nice to do, and it's also a moment to reflect on yourself and to take your time to what is really your desire or your urge to do in your tech. I'm working at ASR. ASR is a large insurance company here in the Netherlands. It's around 4,000 employees. We sell all different kind of insurance products: non-life insurance, health insurance, life insurance, and of course, as an insurance company, we have a lot of data to work with. So for me as a data scientist, it's a beautiful place to make our algorithms, to prepare our data. But yeah, how did I came up to work at ASR? And the topic of my talk is starting a career in tech. Let's focus on the first point. That's starting. Starting is always uncomfortable for we as humans to start with something. It's challenging. We were a bit afraid of, are we capable of doing the things we did? And 3 years ago, I was at the point after graduation, and I was in my search for my first job, and I had this same feeling of, okay, I've just graduated. What will I going to be as a professional? And then I found these 3 jogging balls in my room. And these three jogging balls remind me of when I was 15 years old. I found these 3 jogging balls at my parents' home. I was then living there, and I asked my dad if he could teach me how to juggle. He told me there's only one way you can learn how to juggle, and that's just learning by doing. So he showed me the first principles, and after a while, I just became juggling. And first, it's easy. You know the basics, and after a while, you can apply some small tricks, and of course, they drop. It's part of the learning. And now people say to me, if they found here in my home and they found my jogging balls, they say, "Oh, I can't juggle." Now, of course, maybe you can juggle, but definitely you can learn how to juggle. And that brings me to the first piece of advice I want to give you, and that's really the starting point to choosing a career in tech is the core question: what do you want to learn? I asked this question myself. So you can maybe in the chat, if you think about this question, what would you like to learn? Just the first thoughts. Can you maybe share in the chat what your answers will be? What would you like to learn? Is it a programming language? Is it some type of algorithm? Is it more of a system you would like to learn from? And it's a difficult question, sure, but you can learn so many things as a human being. But the first question, what would you like to learn? Not in terms, I want to work at that company, I want to work in that industry, but what would you like to learn?
Not sure.
Data science?
Okay, I see you also have an eye on the chat.
Yeah.
People analytics, data science.
How to make meaningful deductions from data, a beautiful answer. Yeah, Okay, cool. And that's a really good starting question. And how to start a career? It's a general question to approach how to start something, how to start a career. But more on the tech part specifically, you can learn so many specific things in the world of tech. If these three balls, if this is Python, this is Java, and this is R, there are so many more languages you can choose, you can learn from. So on the one hand, it's a huge store of things you can learn, and it's a bit of the paradox of choice. You know, how more choices there are, the more difficult it is to pick something. But still, it's a very important question. What would you like to learn? And for me, when I was 26 years old, back then, the most important thing I would like to learn is just how is data science applied in business? I know data science from the university, from academia, but how is data science applied in the industry, in the world of business? Still a fairly general question I was curious to. And there are a lot of companies working with data, so that question do not directly point you to some company you will go to. So I came up with a second question after the question, what would you like to learn? The second question I answered myself is, what is for you an appropriate learning environment? And which kind of environment are you good in learning? So what are the conditions, the context, the culture for you in which you are a good learner? So that could be maybe a bit of a very business and result driven company, or maybe a small startup, or a public organization. So also answering that second question for yourself, what is an appropriate learning environment? And besides, what would you like to learn? What is an environment in which you will flourish in terms of learning? And at ASR, the typical point about ASR as an insurance company is that it isn't that extremely business and result driven. It's a very human company. It's very informal, pretty flat for a big company. The hierarchy is quite minimal, and that's something that suits me as a person, to work in a company where people are listening to each other regardless of your position, regardless of your age. So the flat characteristics of ASR is very useful for me as a person to thrive and to learn. Yeah, so that's also very important. And one thing I came up to in my beginning stages when I entered ASR, so I was in an environment where I could learn, and I would learn to apply data science in business. And I discovered quite soon that because you're a techie in a company where also there are quite different roles, that people quite soon see you as an expert, and they trust you. And that was for me personal a real eye-opener. I thought maybe the first 2 years I have to prove myself that I'm an expert, because you are a techie, you have such an important role in a company. From the first moment you enter the company, you are actually taken seriously. And it's also an attitude you have to keep for yourself, that you are taken seriously by your thoughts and by your knowledge. Although you're just starting, even if you're a beginner, you still have a lot to talk about, and have a lot of expertise. Although your experience is maybe quite small compared to the others, you have so much value to add. So that was also a really key point in my career when I started at ASR. And that question, what would you like to learn? It's relevant in the start, but it's a very relevant self-reflection question I ask myself each half year. So after 2 years as working as a data scientist at ASR, I once again asked myself that question: what would I like to learn right now? And I figured out that other than my teammates really are more the specialists, data scientists. They're really good at, one is very good at the text mining, another one is really dedicated into building pipelines in Python. And for myself, I figured out that I am more the business side of a data scientist. So I changed more from the data scientist towards an analytics translator. And as an analytics translator, you are filling the gap between tech and business, because tech is nothing without business. So if you are doing a data science project or data science project in a business setting, you always have to work with non-tech people and people that are domain knowledgeers or domain expertise in different kind of insurance companies, in my sense. And for me as an analytics translator, I'm more of the bridge between tech, between data science and the business. So I discovered that by asking myself the question, what would I like to learn? So that question remains relevant also during your career. Yeah. Oh yeah, and another important point about the question, how to start a career in tech, related to what is a good learning environment for you, is with what kind of people are you, would you like to cooperate? What kind of personalities are those people? Yeah, maybe you can relate from your studies on college or on university. Of course, you have cooperated with people, and you know what kind of people are suitable for you to work with, to, as a team, gain success. And if you apply for a job, most of the time you do not speak to your direct colleagues. Most of the time it's a recruiter and a manager, and somewhere else in the process of applying for a job. You maybe will speak to one or two teammates if you're lucky. But another piece of advice I want to give you is to ask to meet your possible future teammates, and just to have a chat with them for 1 hour. I did that at ASR, and it was so useful to see and to meet these people, which I knew I had to work with every day on a daily basis, and really they would really be my most close colleagues. You can ask that for yourself, and so don't hesitate to ask for a meetup with your future possible future colleagues. Because also in the world of tech, of course, if you're looking for a job and if you're curious what you want to do, know for yourself that, of course, the company is interested who are you as a person, but you can also have your conditions on who are you as a company and as an employer. That you can also be critical the other way around. It's very important to have that mutual interest in each other, and to be very curious, who are you as a company, and what are you willing to serve me as an employee? It's very important. What else? Yeah, and the last thing I want to give you the piece of advice. When I was in my search for a job, I was so eager to find the most perfect job in the beginning, with the idea, if I apply for a job, that will be it for the rest of my life. And of course, that is nonsense, because I realized if you are applying for a job and if you're starting your career in tech, you're just entering a point. Your career is or just a collection of points. So I'm now here at ASR, but I know that I can choose in any direction for a possible new job. So whatever you're going to choose, take it seriously, enjoy the process, choose for yourself what would you like to learn, and what is a suitable learning environment for you. And also realize that you are just entering a point, a dot. You can switch always afterwards. That's it. That's my piece of advice for you. We'll love to hear your questions or your response. I can now just answer them. We have plenty of time left, I see.
Plenty of time. Well, depends how many questions there are, Terry. So there are some questions indeed. I think, thank you. You've been talking a lot about learning environments. So there are definitely some questions that are about learning, and also some comments about what people have been learning, self-learning as well. Martina sharing that she started learning Python by herself, and that was her first programming language. But I want to bring a question from Sakshi, who is talking about bringing in some of your previous learning or previous experience when you're moving into a new field. So by profession, he is an engineer, but has worked in marketing for a travel company, as that was his interest. Now he wants to work as a data scientist with a focus on machine learning, Python, and will be doing a master's in the fall. But how can he use past experience, so past learning that he's done in marketing towards data science roles? How can he make his profile stronger with the learning he's already done?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think the first thing that comes up to my mind is, if you already have experience in business world, in the most general sense of the word, it's already very useful to bring that business knowledge into the field of data science, because doing data science with your experience with business is so powerful, because doing data science without any feeling of business is challenging. So your experience with business is, I think, already a unique selling point to enter the world of data science.
Thank you. And you were talking about surrounding yourself with the right people, right? To learn from, meeting maybe future teammates before you necessarily join a company. I think quite a lot of companies and startups especially have had this new practice of office days, or like role plays at the office, actually to do so, to make sure you also want to work in that environment. But I was curious, what are some, of course, the learning and your development, it is a personal responsibility first and foremost, but do you think it's also a responsibility of a company you join, let's say of your employer? And what are some good practices you may have seen from organizations in terms of employee learning?
Do you mean in the application process specifically?
I think rather when someone has joined a company, do you think a company has a responsibility to stimulate your learning, and what are maybe some approaches to that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, at ASR, learning is a very central topic in the HR policy. So rather than, when I talk with my manager, to have an evaluation talk, to look back at the past few months, there's also always a central question: what have you learned, and what would you like? What are your learning goals for the next months? So I'm not only judged by my end results, but I'm also we are looking at my learning curve, at the technical parts, at the technical skills, but also at soft skills and the way I present myself, my behavior. So paying attention with your manager towards your learning ability and your learning curve on different domains is at ASR a central topic of these kind of conversations. Yeah.
Great. So let's dive a little bit more into also your expertise in data science in that field. Paulo is sharing that to be a data scientist, do you think realistically learning a method is more important than learning a specific language? It seems that recruiting is more focused on some specific softwares than methodologies that one can deploy with different softwares. So do you think it's more important to learn methods or to learn a specific language?
I think both can work, actually. I know, indeed, I agree with that. Recruiters are very pointed towards that you are capable in programming in a certain language. But I think if you're really good at methods, it can also be useful to be part of a data science team. Of course, you have different roles in the data science team, so that's also part of your learning environment. What is your role in that specific team? And if you are the expert at the methods part, and somebody else can turn it into Python language, Python code, for instance, you still are a very valuable player in your team. So it depends on the context. I think both are very suitable and useful. Yeah.
And speaking about teams, Carolina is asking, how large is the data science team at ASR?
Yeah, we're a team of 10 persons, 10 people. Me as a data scientist, 2 other data scientists, and 3 cloud engineers or data engineers. And then, of course, a product owner and a Scrum Master, because we work with the Agile framework. And we're the central team at ASR. And so around different departments at ASR, you also have different data science teams. But the team I'm working in consists of 10 people. Yeah. And also regarding the Agile way of working, which is very common in software development and data science projects. The beauty about the Agile way of working is that it's in its core, it has the urge to learn in a fast rate. So also the nature of developing algorithms and developing software has the movement of learning in itself already because of the framework. So that's very, yeah, that's lucky if you are doing tech work.
Thank you, Terry, Nick, and we've come to the end of your session already, so that went by very quickly. Thank you for sharing your story and your 3 juggling balls as you're starting your career in tech. Feel free to stick around, of course, maybe see some more questions or comments on the chat and Q&A.